The American spirit is one founded in the populace rising against oppressors. The pursuit of freedom and fulfilling one's destiny is at the core of what defines the nation. That being said, the United States, like many other nations, has a tainted past. For decades, African people and their descendants were enslaved and abused by their captors. American history in regards to this period is a very sensitive subject. The atrocities committed against enslaved people are widely known, but certain events are left out of the history books. The German Coast Uprising is a largely forgotten event in U.S. history. Even the name, the German Coast, has been forgotten outside of pockets of Louisiana, but the event was in fact America's largest slave revolt. Hundreds of people rose up against their tormentors and marched in pursuit of freedom. Their story, their effort, is one that all Americans should remember. I hope that this video will shed some light on this story of people who gave everything for a chance at freedom. The revolt occurred in 1811 along the Mississippi River, right after the harvest season had ended. During this time of the year, there was minimal work to be done, and the enslaved had a brief respite from their duties. By all accounts, the revolt was led by Charles DeLong, an enslaved man that sowed seed of rebellion among plantations in the area. Charles's plan was to organize slaves and march to New Orleans, where he would demand freedom and set up a free colony. The uprising began at the Andrew plantation near to where Charles was enslaved. The group attacked the plantation owner, Manuel Andry, and his son Gilbert, at night with knives and axes. Manuel was severely wounded and managed to escape. However, his son was killed in the attack. When I said demand freedom, what I meant was they were going to take their freedom at any cost. The troop began to grab what weapons and valuables they could carry before they began their march to New Orleans. Accounts say that 15 of the enslaved people left the plantation that night. From there, they headed to the DeLong plantation next door, where Charles was enslaved. Their troop grew larger. 8 people left from there. Each plantation that they passed increased their numbers, and with it, their determination. Witness accounts say that their march was reminiscent of a structured army. There were people on horseback, drums playing, and they marched in file. Along the way, they set fire to field and plantation houses. Only one additional person was killed, and there's a reason for this. Some slaves warned their masters that there was an uprising coming. Most of the slave owners in the area fled to New Orleans, where they took refuge in the city. Manuel Andry, the slave owner that escaped the initial attack, retreated to New Orleans and gathered a militia with forces from the city. They set out to squash the rebellion, and squash it they did. After only a few days of marching, the group led by Charles encountered the militia in a short-lived but extremely violent battle. Many of the marchers were brutally slaughtered, but some managed to flee into nearby swamps. This next piece is graphic and to me explains why the event is not widely talked about today, but I think it's very important for everyone to hear it. The militia tracked and caught as many of the people who fled as they could find. These people, along with people who did not fall in battle, were executed, and the militia butchered their corpses and displayed their heads on spikes to strike fear into enslaved people. Over 60 miles of distance was dotted with human remains. Charles was given especially terrible treatment for being the leader. They shot him multiple times, dismembered him, set him on fire, and then decapitated him. All told, 95 people were murdered in their pursuit of freedom. Our history does not remember these people. It's as if we have a collective amnesia. Like the trauma of what happened is too much to handle for our nation. I think we should honor these men and these women like we would anyone who fought for freedom and made the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you for listening.